Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Barbara Bonney, and I'm your worship associate this morning. On this day, a day we have set aside to honor our ancestors, it is appropriate to note that we are located on the ancestral lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Miami, and Shawnee people. For those of you who are joining us in person today, you may have noticed the new accessibility signs posted everywhere. If you did not, let me give you a quick summary of its contents. To begin, please note that in the back of our sanctuary, there are listening devices, noise-canceling headphones, and printed orders of service. Second, should you feel the need to fidget during the service, please do so. This goes for adults as well as children. And speaking of children, know that children are welcome in service at all times, not just on all-age worship days like today. Yes, sometimes our needs as adults can clash with the needs of our children. Remember, all of us, adults and children alike, are learning how to be in beloved community together. If you find you need to leave the sanctuary at any point for any reason, know that you can still listen to this service from our lobby. Finally, should you need to use the restroom at any point, note that there are gendered restrooms on our first floor and gender-neutral restrooms on our wheelchair-accessible second floor. In short, our urban community welcomes all with love, supports learning and spiritual growth, serves our wider community, and works for justice, equity, and inclusion. We are glad you are here with us this morning, whether in person or virtually. If at any point you would like to learn more about us or any of our programming, please contact us at member-care@firstuu.com. Now it is time to move into worship by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith, with these words. In the Beginning, by Nancy Schaefer. Kate is teaching the kids about dinosaur air. That air you breathe, that air you have inside you every time you take a breath, that's dinosaur air, she says. Dinosaurs breathed it. The kids' eyes are very wide. They take deep gulps of air just to have more dinosaur air inside them. The air we all have is all the air we will ever have, Kate says, so we have to take good care of it. The kids gulp less. Consider the air already inside. Kate tells more. Actually, she says, we're all cousins. The kids look at each other, disbelieving, believing. You? We, all of us, Kate says, way, way back, began as cousins, way back in the beginning. The kids whoop, clap each other on the back for the rest of the day. They savor air and call each other cousin. Please rise now in body or spirit and join us in singing our vision song. Words will appear on the screen. Sit down. For those of you joining us virtually, today we invite you to share a quick hello in the live chat, for now is the time during the service when we turn and greet our neighbor. How does it work?
Trick or treat. Who would like to come up and get some candy or gummies or bubbles? Kids and adults, anyone, please come up. Come up, grab. Trick or treat. I see some people have already come up in costume, and I see some of you may not be in full costume, but maybe have a shirt. Yep. Wonderful.
But that means you have to get another one because he got one. I'm just vaguely spooky. How's that? Non-chocolate.
There, that's gummies.
Gummies, yeah.
A factory.
We'll get you some bubbles.
Yeah, I bought it. Last week I before, yeah, I paid for it. Oh, look at that. I love these. So I'm out of here.
Oh, someone wanted more. Have you ever wondered
Why is Superhero like bubbles?
He's Superman.
Oh, maybe he can fly like a bubble.
Have you ever wondered why we dress up or go trick-or-treating on Halloween? Have you ever wondered that? I wondered that. It turns out that over 2,000 years ago, a group of our ancestors, that's people who came before us, a group of them who used to live in a place that we now call Ireland and another place that we call Great Britain. They were known as the Celts, and they believed that during this time of year, the barrier that separated the world of the living and the world of the dead, this barrier that they called the veil, grew very, very thin. Some people still believe this. But they believed that the burial grew so thin that, in fact, one night out of the year, the dead could come into our world and hurt us. So they would get all dressed up in order to trick the dead into thinking that they were one of them. And they would share a meal together. So that way the dead would be happy and wouldn't want to attack. Fast forward hundreds of years later. Oh, I forgot to mention this night where they dressed up and shared a meal together, that was called Samhain. And if you fast forward 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years after that, now Samhain is no longer celebrated because Christianity has spread throughout Ireland and Great Britain. But those costumes and those treats never really went away. Now children go door to door asking for a treat in exchange for a joke. True. This is also when they started carving jack-o'-lanterns. But that's a story for another day. When they started going door to door to get treats, they called that Oh Hallows Eve, or Halloween, that's right. And that's why we celebrate it today. And today we're going to learn more about ancestors, those people who came before, and how they're honored and celebrated still around the world. We're going to begin with one part of a story.
Where We Come From by Diane Wilson, Sun Young Shin, Shannon Gibney, and John Coy. Illustrated by Dion M.B.D. We come from stardust, our bodies made of ancient elements. We come from single cells, evolving over billions of years, as did all life on Earth. Bacteria, trees, animals. In time, we became humans who spread out around the world. We come from place, language, and spirit, and each of us comes from story. I come from Minnesota Makoche, a land of forests and clear lakes, where cornfields remember a vast prairie, a sea of tall grass, home to bison, burrowing owls, and Dakota skipper butterflies. I come from Korea. Green mountains, black rocks, and cold springs, wet moss, giant frogs, and pine trees winding around shadows. A city grown by the river. That's where I come from. Named for the stands of bur oak trees, this city called Ann Arbor is mine. Our stately old train station downtown sits not far from an arboretum with iris and peony gardens that spill into fern walks.
Please rise now in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 1001, Breaths. in your teal hymnal. Words will be on the screen.
One moment. Well, of course, I managed to bring the wrong piece of paper up in front with me. But here we are, part one of honoring our ancestors around the world. In Meredith's story, Where We Come From, you will hear many individual stories of the author's lives and the lives of the ancestors who came to this country before them. For my part, I will branch out with stories from several places around the world. You have heard about Halloween and Dia De Los Muertos, and some of the traditions for those holidays. But it turns out that in many places, people have found it helpful to celebrate their ancestors with rituals. It is one way to deal with the grief and uncertainty of death, whether your own or of those you love. We usually think of ancestors as those people who are directly related to us, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and others in our own bloodline. Sometimes our own story makes it helpful to think of adoptive parents or grandparents as our ancestors. Another kind of ancestor might be what could be called land ancestors, the indigenous people who had previously occupied the land. You will have noticed that we take care to recognize this when we begin our services, as this building and this city were built on land used by Native American cultures over many centuries, and then taken by force by European settlers. Recognizing this fact expresses our understanding that our UU beliefs require us to consider what reparations may be needed. To begin, I would like to offer a description of a Hindu festival celebrated primarily in India. This festival is Pitru Paksh. And of course, I don't know for sure how to pronounce that, and it varied when I listened online, lasting 16 days, with each year's dates based on the lunar calendar. Here and many other places, there is a belief that souls are alive forever. And this is the time that ancestor spirits come back to earth to bring blessings. Brahmin priests offer prayers and receive gifts of food and clothing for ancestor spirits. These may then be distributed to living people who have need of them, strengthening the community as a whole. If a spirit is made happy with its favorite things, it will bring blessings instead of curses. For these foods, tradition dictates both the types and methods of preparing them. Pitru Paksh is also a special time to provide food for cows, dogs, and especially crows. Why crows? The crow is a form sometimes taken by ancestor spirits. On the final day, called Mahalaya, the ritual offerings of water and sesame seeds are performed, often in or on the edge of a river. Amid all of these activities, flower stalls offer special beauty. For this slide, you will have to imagine the scent and texture.
As we prepare for our offering today, I want to remind you that our Share the Plate for the month of October is Shiloh Food Bank, located just 4 blocks north of our church. Giving is easy. You can text the word GIVE to 513-717-7373. If you have access to the Breeze member system, you may click Give Now, or you can give online at firstuu.com. Just don't forget to choose Share the Plate in the drop-down menu. You can also write a check to First Unitarian Church with Shiloh Food Pantry on the memo line and mail it to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45219. If this is your first time with us, please let the virtual plate pass you by. Your presence is enough.
I come from the north. Wind-whipped, snowy afternoons when dark comes early. From Minneapolis, a combination of Dakota and Greek words. Waterfall City on the great river Mississippi. I come from Hintumgungapi. Old stories told in winter by the fire, passed down from countless generations. Uktumi, the trickster, helps us remember what the elders teach. To be Dakota, you must be a good relative. I come from a long line of dark-haired women who washed rice, spun silk, and wrote poems. I come from stones and trees with spirits, Buddhist temples in the woods, nine-tailed fox folktales, tigers, and red-crowned cranes. I come from people traveling, stories from 2 continents. One group in Ireland, the other somewhere in West Africa, planting and harvesting parsnips and barley, yam and okra. I come from the animals, bear, boar, elk, and deer, who kept us alive long ago in Ireland and Scotland. I come from groves in the forest, bounty of nuts, berries, and mushrooms, and from standing stones, sacred spots for ceremonies. I come from the breath of plants, the sweet sap of trees, roasted corn, first medicine water, parched wild rice, bison meat sizzling fat on hot coals, gifts from the land. I come from 5,000 years of a people, kingdoms that rose and fell, an empire, movable metal type, and a native alphabet created so all the people could read and write. White people called my ancestors slaves, dragging us to this country by force. We worked on enormous cotton plantations they thought they owned too. But the flourishing forests we runaways hid in also resisted. I come from Gaelic speakers, sitting in a wide circle of stories, myths, and poetry. I come from a drum, the bowron and bagpipes, flutes and fiddles, songs sung at the ceilidh deep in the night. I come from a war in 1862 that forced us from our homeland, from the bones of our relatives, from the plants we knew. I come from grandparents forbidden to speak their language, ancestors forced to learn English at boarding schools.
Many indigenous groups have rituals that include the honoring of ancestors. For example, in Nigeria, which is indeed in Western Africa, which has many tribes and 500 languages, Igbo people celebrate Awuru Odo, a festival which occurs every 2 years and can last 6 or more months. Great care is taken to welcome the visits of these ancestor spirits and to celebrate and grieve when they leave again. Practices include creating shrines, making offerings of food, and a final parade of thanks and respect, including costumes, percussion music, singing, and dancing. Special prayers are offered with hope for good harvests and healthy babies. A much shorter holiday is celebrated in both North and South Korea. Chuseok is only 3 days, but it includes the tending of graves and memorial services for ancestors, including beautifully arranged offerings of their favorite foods. On the final day, families gathered for lavish feasts, where many traditional handmade foods are served, and ancestors are thanked for helping provide a good harvest. Remember Dia De Los Muertos? It is celebrated not only in Mexico, but in many parts of Latin America, including indigenous areas, where it may be combined with aspects of traditional festivals. Catholic observances became mixed with the native Mayan beliefs in Guatemala, for example, and several new traditions were established. The 4 elements of fire, air, earth, and water are honored in many of these traditions. Graves are decorated with fire, candles, air, marigold flowers, and tissue paper. Earth, food, and water, drinks, to welcome spirits who return for All Souls Day on November 1. In some areas, it is customary to practice embonchado, when relatives spend the night of October 31 sleeping next to the graves of the loved ones to protect them from evil spirits who are expected to arrive that night. Then, on November 1 and 2, the graves are decorated, and families spend time together eating, sharing food with the relatives, the spirits, and enjoying music and dancing. In other regions of Guatemala, there are distinct traditions involving human skulls and carved gourds resembling skulls. The gourds are carved with traditional designs, lit with candles, and carried through the city and to the cemetery for a community prayer for loved ones who have died. What I found most beautiful was the kite festival at Sumpango. The kites here can be huge ones, as big as 40 feet high, made of paper, with bamboo used for the frame. For months, each large group devotes their artistic energy and time to add complex decorations, which may be unique for each family history. Smaller groups or individuals, including children, may make their own small kites, which might be more successful at launch time. This kite tradition is likely 3,000 years old and originally was used as a means of communicating with ancestor spirits. Think breath and air. One current author indicates that they have become symbols of peace and compassion for the living. In this slide, enjoy the beautiful kites and the accompanying peace and compassion. Oh, we need the slide. No, the one before that. There's the kite.
They don't look like kites, do they? This is the time that we contemplate the joys and sorrows that are on our hearts. We use stones to represent our joys and our sorrows. We use the water here to represent the love of our community. We drop stones in the water to seek amplification of our joys and sharing of the burden of our sorrows. All the individual joys and sorrows come together in the bowl of water so that they can be symbolically shared and borne by the community. I will drop a stone in now for Becky and Jose Alginio, who provided today's flowers in celebration of their 55th wedding anniversary. Now I'd like to invite all of you to come forward and drop a stone in our waters.
I come from over 100 years of migration across the Pacific. First, on the SS Gaelic, to sugarcane plantations and pineapple farms in Hawaii. I come from black folks in Mississippi who loved the land but had to leave it behind to stand up, to find enough space for we who were coming. They journeyed to industrial cities in the north, crowding into tenement houses, working in factories and meatpacking plants, all so the babies could finally reach and grow. I come from the soil, potatoes planted each year until blight and famine forced families to flee. I come from ocean crossings, Cork to New York, Glasgow to Halifax, people packed in boats, praying for passage. I come from my grandmother's garden, picking berries warm from the sun. My ancestors' prayers brought us home to the land where we have always lived. Now, families dance at powwows, learn our language, and listen to the old stories once again. I come from the Chicago skyline, chasing glowing fireflies at dusk, borrowing stacks of books from the neighborhood library, and reading them by flashlight at night. I come from backyard snow forts and snowball fights in the park, from sleepovers in the treehouse and s'mores in the fire pit, from parents who love each other but sometimes fight, and brothers who never back down from a dare. I come from baseball diamonds, playground basketball courts, weekly library visits, and cross-country road trips, looking to the future, learning from the past. We all come from stardust, sparks of light connected by story, creating a circle of past, present, and future, ancestors, families, and you. What do the stars, the fields, and the rivers sing to you? What story does the wind whisper in your ear? And I wonder, where do you come from?
We've talked about traditions of honoring ancestors from South America, Africa, India, and Korea. Time is too short to go into detail about others, such as Chinese and Japanese ancestor rituals, which tend to come from various Buddhist and Taoist traditions. For example, my worldwide Tai Chi group uses a chanting ritual, All Souls Festival, to bring comfort to ancestors and to offer the wisdom of the sutras for their benefit. An important Chinese festival, sometimes called the Festival of the Hungry Ghost, requires food and incense paper to be created and burned, and often ends with paper lanterns set afloat. A Japanese Buddhist festival called Obon includes several dances, special dances, family gatherings and light, bonfires and floating lanterns to guide ancestors back to the family. 2 Hindu celebrations I found especially compelling occur in Nepal. Gai Jat, the festival of cows, and Tihar, a festival of lights sometimes called the Day of the Dogs. As in the Indian Hindu festival Pitru Paksh, cows, dogs, and crows are important in Nepal. This festival can vary in different cities of the region. In some areas, cows are led in a procession to help recently deceased souls to the afterlife. Sometimes children or others may dress as cows or as gods and goddesses. After the procession, the day becomes a great celebration with decorations, dances, plays, and elaborate costumes. Finally, Tihar is a festival of lights, especially honoring Yama, the Hindu god of death. On the first day, crows and ravens, honored as messengers of death, are presented with food and prayers, hoping they will not bring news of another death. On the second day, dogs are given honor for guarding the community. On the next 2 days, sacred cows and then oxen are honored. They, as well as dogs, may wear lovely flower garlands, and you should look at those pictures when you have a chance. On this day, festival lights and fireworks are lit. On the final day, elaborate rituals are performed between sister and brother siblings, and special food is shared. This is another traditional way to strengthen family bonds. And now, may knowledge of these festivals and traditions help us understand the numerous ways humans have found to give meaning to their lives and to death. May we be happily blessed with our own families, know the breath of the ancestors and of the dinosaurs, and remember that we can call each other cousin.
You may have noticed I put on a new shirt over my old one. It says, "My ancestors are always cheering me on." We are formed by the breath of our ancestors. Ancestors related to us by place, language, spirit, and story. Every celebration of them is a celebration of us and our lives. I'd like to invite you now to join in one such celebration. Our closing hymn today, hymn number 1051, We Are, is actually a video created by Mike Menifee, and we're going to share it with you with his permission. And I invite you to do whatever you feel called to do while this video plays. If you feel like sitting, sit. If you feel like dancing, dance. If you feel like singing, sing. Words will be on the screen.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreams. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Our closing words today are by V. Emil Godmanson, The Field of Promise. What we are, we have reached because of other people's planting. The thoughts, the values, the ideas, and the feelings we possess are articulate because we have been in the recipients of knowledge, kindness, love, and understanding. And above all, the mystery we call life we owe to a presence yet unknown, yet still very close to us. For these gifts are not our own. We give thanks. And now may we have the faith in life to do wise planting, that the generations may come may reap ever more abundantly than we. May we be reminded of the wise ones of old who admonished, if you plant for 1 year, plant grain. If you plant for 10 years, plant trees. If you plant for centuries, plant souls. May we be bold in bringing to fruition the golden dreams of human kinship and justice. This we ask, that the fields of promise may become fields of reality. Now let us extinguish our chalice with the words that will appear on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Just a few quick announcements before the postlude. They're coming. So next Sunday will be First Sunday Potluck, so please come for that. There's a sign up for kitchen helpers, but not for food, so come bring whatever you want, or even if you don't bring anything, come anyway. And speaking of potluck, Thanksgiving this year will be a potluck. There's more on that in emails, so be on the lookout for that. And this month's TAD Talk is called Transforming Futures, and it's to benefit the Jeanette Rankin Foundation. More on that also in your emails. And before I let you go, Mary Tarbell Green wants me to let you know that you can pick up marigolds and seed packets from the altar, the ofrenda, right outside our sanctuary.